Hello, everybody. It's me, Ross, and welcome back to another edition of the League One Lowdown, where I speak to fans, podcasters, and journalists from each League One club to get their thoughts for the coming season. Today, I'm joined by Tom from the Blackpool Gazette, who cover all things Fleetwood Town. Tom, thank you very much for joining me. First of all, introduce yourself and Fleetwood Town, eh?
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Tom. I've been covering Fleet for about over 18 months now. Fleetwood as a club isn't the biggest in the league, but there's more to them than I think a lot of people see, especially the infrastructure and things like that. And I think a lot of people were surprised they were in the playoffs a few years ago, but they have that in them. Maybe not so much at the moment, but yeah, it's definitely possible with the way the club is.
I'm a big fan of Fleetwood. When I went there a few seasons ago away, and I just loved the ground. I know it's so small; it's a classic non-league ground, but also it's a very modern non-league ground. It looks very modern. I loved it there. It was great. Let's talk about Fleetwood then. Last year, finishing 15th. Previously, as you mentioned, got into the playoffs. Simon Grayson's first full season in charge. Let's talk about the transfer business. The big talking point, of course, Wes Burns leaving Fleetwood to join Town on a free transfer. I think that was always going to look like it's going to happen. I'm sure Wes Burns, who's been on fire for Fleetwood for the last 2 years, scoring goals, getting assists, a player that has impressed me. But let's talk about their business. As an outsider, I don't really know much about their signings and stuff like that. So give us the lowdown on the signings. And is Wes Burns been replaced, or is that going to be hard to replace him?
Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily been replaced like for like. It's very difficult to replace someone like Wes, who was very capable of playing on the wing and at fullback. He offers a hell of a lot, really. I think probably Brad Halliday, someone like that, maybe is the person that's you'd probably say the replacement. There's also been Tom Clark brought in, Max Clark, Anthony Pilkington, and a couple of lone strikers. But it is difficult to replace someone like Wes, who's got those, a couple of hundred appearances and has kind of grown with the club. One question mark that we always had with Wes is, or whenever you spoke to him as well, it was like, he's got half a dozen assists and he's looking good, and you say, when are the goals coming? Where are the goals coming from? And that was always the one area of his game that he needed to kind of not necessarily work on, but add more to. And he'd score the odd goal, but it'd be few and far between. And I think he kind of was getting there towards the end of his time at Fleetwood, and he was really starting to become more regular at scoring goals. And then Ipswich take him. So you've kind of got him at the peak of his powers so far. And I think he'll be a brilliant addition. To be honest, when Fleetwood signed him on activated an option, so they got an extra year, and then I think it changed his wages and things like that. So they had to let go. It basically meant they could get some sort of small fee for him. And to be honest, when the writing was on the wall and he was leaving, I expected him to be in the Championship. So I think it's a really good signing for Ipswich, and the type of player, as I say, he's very versatile. So it can do a lot.
And I normally go on and get your predictions for Fleet for this season, but as we're talking about Ipswich Town, let's quickly just talk about their transfer business. We've got new owners. Paul Cook's first full season in charge. As an outsider, what's your thoughts on Town and some good business so far? 10 signings.
Yeah, I think it's really strong. I think it's just been very smart business. I think, there's a few signings coming from the division above, which you always want, and it kind of gives a little bit more positivity around the place. You want to have that feeling of getting a few coups and kind of pulling someone from a level that they probably should be at and bringing them down to yours just to get the most out of them. I think even someone like Ledecky in goals, really smart. He's done so well for Salford and seems very capable of making the step up. Lee Evans, someone that Paul Cook knows so well. Joe Pigott had such a great season last season. There's so many different players you can pick out. I mean, Connor Chaplin signed yesterday as we're recording this, and he's capable of playing higher. It's very difficult to go through the list of Ipswich players and say not this one. Do you know what I mean? There's every single signing seems to have a purpose, seems to be capable of making the mark. And I think as well in Paul Cook, someone who, in my opinion, is probably one of the best managers at that level, especially the title he won with Wigan against Blackburn Rovers, when if either of them blinked throughout that whole season, the other one would step in. Like he clearly can keep his nerve. So I think it's just a case of making sure maybe you hit the ground running, start fast, keep the positivity around the place. Don't let the potential like recent negativity that's easy to fall back into to come back in. And I can't see many teams challenging too much better than Ipswich, really.
Yeah, of course we've got the cynics. I'm very cynical as well, but I'm trying my best to keep positive. But let's go back to Fleetwood and talk about the season ahead. As I said off air, and I've said on a lot of these videos, that League One is going to be so open. There's going to be so many teams fighting for promotion. Teams going to be trying to fight for their lives as well. I think there's the teams that have come down, the teams that come up. It's very strong. Morecambe is one that you never know what can happen with them. That's their first season in League One in their entire history. You never know what they're going to do. But let's Fleetwood. What do you reckon? 15th last season. Do you think they can improve on that position? Can they be up there in the playoffs, or is that just too much for Fleetwood?
I got asked to do a kind of league position prediction the other day, and I think I went for 14th. And it's probably, I feel a little harsh saying it, especially as a Fleetwood writer and knowing what they are capable of. But I think, as you say, it's such a strong division this year. And I was basically going through thinking, if they have a decent season, who's gonna finish above? Who's got the potential to finish above Fleetwood? And I think as well at the time they hadn't quite nailed down all the strikers, and the three forwards that they have at the club are quite young in Garner Edmondson and Morton, who recently signed. They're all young players, so probably need a little bit more experience there. The defence last season, they had one of the best defences in the league, so that part is kind of fine. It's whether they can deliver enough at the other end of the pitch, and it might just mean mid-table in the end, that they don't necessarily concede too many, but taking the game away from other teams might be a bit difficult. But they're definitely a decent side, and I think with the right momentum and things like that, as with probably anyone in this league, they're very capable of breaking into that top half, top six. So who knows?
Yeah. And what just end the video on, when Town take on Fleetwood, a lot of probably a change. A lot of games been played. I think we're playing Fleetwood at Portman Road on the 23rd of October, so a lot of games would have been played there. But as you watch Fleetwood, what sort of football do they play, and what do we expect when they come up to Portman Road? Or do you reckon Tom Grayson will change a little few things now it's his full season? He's been able to bring his own players in.
Well, he kind of settled on a 3-5-2 last season, and I do think that'll probably be the case this season. In the way that he's signed, and he has spoken briefly on it. I think he's also capable of playing a 4 at the back and things like that. But I would expect 3-5-2. Make sure. I think his kind of first port of call is to make sure you don't lose the game, and then go from there. It's at times it's a bit pragmatic, where they're not overly bothered about messing around near the back. If the ball's not near your net, they can't score. But at the same time, that sort of traditional way also means get the ball in the box, get the ball wide, get the crosses in, 2 strikers, get the ball forward. Let's try and hurt them. So played right, it can go very well. Obviously, he's won promotion at this level so many times. And I think as well this season there is also a focus on bringing through youth. The infrastructure at Fleetwood is absolutely brilliant. All the way the academy, and they've got some really good talents. Jamie Tetti is one who's just come back from Grimsby. I know there's been interest in him from a higher level, and he's fantastic. If he gets the game time and matures right, he'll be absolutely brilliant this season. James Hill is 19, played most of the second half of last season in the first team, and looks absolutely brilliant as well. And again, I know there's interest from a higher level, so they've got these kind of players. I think the focus potentially this season may be more on blooding these youngsters, bringing them through a little bit more, and whether it's to make a little bit more money off them or to stand themselves in better stead for next season, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think I think staying in League One would be okay for Fleetwood. I mean, they've come a long way in such a short space of time, but once they get things right and they have the infrastructure and the owner is not afraid to spend money in the right places, they can challenge for the playoffs. But I think it's the same with a lot of teams where you kind of have peaks and troughs, and they had the peak with Joey where they got right up there, and I think if not for COVID, they would have finished arguably in the automatic places. They were in such amazing form and beating other teams around them. But I think, teams go through cycles, and it's that cycle now of rebuilding and then hopefully for them trying to get back up there.
Yeah, as I said, I'm looking forward to my trip to Fleetwood. I think I've got to wait until March till Fleetwood. It's a long way to go. Luckily, it's not a Tuesday night, so
I think most places are a long way to go from Ipswich, aren't they?
Yeah, you got as I mentioned, you got Morecambe, you got Accrington, Wigan, everybody, basically where you are right now, Lancashire. There's so many teams there. Bolton, which is not Lancashire, but it's up there as well. But a lot of teams to travel to. But there we go. Tom, anything else like that before we wrap up?
Well, all the best for the season. I think, with the way League One is, I think it is probably the most open division in the league. Every season, you kind of have a different team come out of nowhere. And you keep mentioning Morecambe. I can't wait to see how they do. I was there at Wembley when they won, and the first season at this level, and they're going for it. So it's great to see. So even the minnows in the league are going for it. So it's nice to see, and I think League One's going to be quite exciting.
Definitely. There we go then. Well, Tom, thank you very much for joining me, and totally everybody else that has watched and enjoyed today's League One Lowdown. Let us know in the comments down below. Fleetwood fans, Town fans, let us know what you think for the season ahead. And I'll be back very soon for another League One Lowdown. See you then.